Sonic Lab
TV.
This is the Gotharman deMOON. It's a synthesizer made by Gotharman. Who are Gotharman, I hear you ask? Well, they are, and they have the dubious honour of being the only Danish hardware synthesizer manufacturer in the whole history of Denmark. The man behind it is called Flemming Christian, and he started out modding Roland SH101s, then he started building various boutique one-off analog synthesizers, and now has started building more standalone synths. This is one of the first ones he's made that's designed to be mass-produced. So what is it? This is a polyphonic 4-voice quad filter bank synthesizer with a granular synth component and also a distortion effect. There's also a step sequencer of 32 steps and an external audio input. There are 4 knobs on the front panel. The first 2 handle parameter access in edit mode and also give you quick access to assignable parameters when in play mode. The play button triggers pre-programmed sequences and also has an LED beneath it to indicate incoming MIDI. On the rear there's a 9-volt DC input with a dedicated on-off switch, a MIDI in for control of the unit and a stereo output with the left-hand side also doubling as a headphone output. There's a dedicated volume knob and also a cursor control knob which has a push-to-click function. First impressions of the unit: it does feel very handmade and DIY, almost shoddily so. There are sharp edges, there are big protruding screw heads. It does seem a little bit like it's been carelessly constructed, although I'm told it actually has been designed this way. The idea was to make it feel irreverent and sort of punky. But let's take a look at the nitty-gritty of what's actually going on under the hood. This is a DSP-powered virtual analog synthesizer. It has 4 voices with continually variable waveforms from saw through triangle, through square, through pulse width. All of the waves can be pulse width modulated. It has 4 multi-mode analog modelled filters, each with high pass, band pass and low pass. Each of the filters can be panned individually and activated individually. It also has a sort of granular synthesizer effector in there called mini gran, and a distortion unit with 5 types of distortion. There are 4 LFOs, yeah that's right, 4, each with saw, triangle, square and pulse width, and that's continually variable between all of those shapes. And there are also 2 envelope generators. There's also a 32-step note sequencer which is MIDI syncable and has 3 tracks, 1 for note value, 1 for velocity value and 1 for MIDI controller value. Has real-time transpose and also a keyboard arpeggiator mode where you can interact directly with MIDI input. So let's have a listen to a few sounds. So as you can hear, it's quite harsh and digital sounding synthesizer. Warm and analog are not adjectives I'd use to describe this synthesizer at all. Gotharman have very much gone for that. They wanted it to be electronic and glitchy and quite sort of not pain inducing, but sort of hard. And they've certainly managed to do that. To edit the Gotharman, you simply move the cursor to the edit position using the cursor, this rotary encoder here, push to enter the mode. Then you've got all of these sub-menu items which have under them, again, even more parameters. So we select oscillator, we go to wave. I can change the wave here. Come out, if I want to change the filter, I go to filter, type. And then cut off. Etc, etc. To be honest, I found the operating system and the editing a bit cumbersome and quite hard to get around, and particularly for creating new patches. If you want to maybe tweak the filter resonance and the cutoff, they're not on the same page, so it's actually a bit of a pain. Far better to map some MIDI controllers, such as I've got a Behringer BCR 2000 here. I'll play the sequence and it means I can access the parameters much more easily from a control surface like this. There's another couple of things which were a bit irritating, and that is there's quite a lot of scaling issues. So for instance, if I take a release portion, this sound is a bit too long for my liking. To edit that, I've got it set up here on this one. There's nothing, and then if I only add 2, it's too long. And this is actually quite an issue, because what it does is means that the resolution is off. So if you want to micro tweak certain things like the beginning at the end or the end of the possible scale, it's actually quite difficult. It's worth taking a look at the sequencer in the deMOON. You activate this by pressing the button on the front. To edit, you move the cursor over the edit, press enter. You can affect the resolution, the tempo, which goes up nice and high with some really weird effects. You can say which step you want it to start at, and you can also say what length the sequence wants to be, which can go from 1 right up to 32. We'll stick with 4 here. You can transpose the sequence via the keyboard. Set various different trigger modes, including the button, the gate of the keyboard, the release gate of the keyboard, and you step through it with each subsequent press of the keyboard. Each of the individual steps is editable with a note value, velocity value. There's also a third track which allows you to assign one of 3 controllers and a variable value to each step. We should take a look at the granular synthesis capabilities in this as well. Here's the first page of parameters with the grain length and the effect mix. There's none going on here, so then if I turn the slice length up gradually, you can hear what it does. It's not subtle, although you can blend it quite low into the sound, but it does give you access to some extra granular synthesis effects. Second page of parameters allows you to reorder and change the pitch of the granule for some really wacky and far out sounds. Overall, I didn't really find that the deMOON floated my boat. I think maybe the sort of sounds that it makes are not compatible with my musical taste, perhaps. It's very much a brash and kind of distorting and bold synthesizer, but it's not something that is, one could say, is sweet and sonically pleasing in that way. Although I'm told by the Gotharman marketing people that people are going crazy for the sounds that it can make, and that's all well and good. It's just perhaps they're not for me. One thing that can be said on the positive side is it does have incredibly complex and quite variable modulation routings, and the additional LFOs and the envelopes really do help you create those sounds if that's what you're after. The deMOON is priced at €400, and at present there's a limited production run of 120, so you're going to have to probably go on a waiting list if you want to get yours. For me, I probably won't be putting myself on that waiting list. It's just not the synthesizer for me.